This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, today we get to feature a young man who has been doing what he's been doing for, these 40 long years ago. And he's been a mentor, and he's got a company, and he works with people to get the success then in their life that they're really looking for. And Nathan, are you getting the success in your life that you're really looking for?
You know, I thought you were about to introduce me as your guest when you said young man, then you said 40 years, and I was like, I still got a lot more years to go to be your guest.
Yes, sometimes it takes a little bit of seasoning and to learn to get the experience that you need to be able to help people. His name, by the way, is Doug Lawrence, and he is with us from Saskatchewan in Canada. And by the way, if you want to follow along, you can do that by going to talent.ca, or is it talentc.ca? Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
talentc.ca, and you can find out all about him, the work that he does. And one of the major things that he is a world-renowned mentor. And I want to start with that because, we have coaches on the show occasionally and stuff, and I would like you to explain the difference between what a mentor is and what a coach is.
I should have known you were going to go down that path here. So, and this is, if we were to go on the internet and do a Google search, you'd probably find that there's all kinds of variations as to what's the difference between the two for me. And this is based on my experience that with mentoring, it's a longer term relationship or arrangement that I get into with the people that I'm mentoring. Coaching is it's more defined, it's more structured per se, and they establish goals and they work towards those. And I know that with mentoring, I try to have it where the person I'm mentoring has the leeway to sort of guide us where they would like to go. And then we can kind of flesh out, okay, what are the things we're going to do together to be able to achieve those goals?
Well, one of those things that I wanted to mention to you is I was looking at your website, and you have a testimonial from a young lady that was having a lot of trouble finding a job. She hated the job that she had. Her resume, she put it out everywhere. She got no results. Nobody was even calling her back. And she was beside herself because she couldn't figure out what she was doing wrong until you showed up. You had a friend recommended you, and you went to talk to her. And what did you discover, and how were you able to help her?
And I've had this in probably 2 or 3 different situations, but what I did was I helped her rewrite the resume, and believe it or not, there was a lot of negative energy in the resume itself. And so that's what was happening, is she was floating all this negative energy out into the business community, and people were going, don't want any part of that. And once we cleaned it up and changed it, and the other part is that she was fighting self-esteem, self-confidence, all of those things. And it's surprising, but that actually seeped through into the resume itself. And once we took care of all of that, she had, I think, as soon as we got a new resume floating out there, within a couple of weeks, she had 3 interviews, and shortly thereafter, a job.
And didn't they decide that they liked her so much that they wanted to keep her on?
Yeah, she became the model, the sort of the poster person that you would want for positivity in an organization. And what she would do is she'd be busy at her desk, and somebody'd come up and start talking negative, and she'd say, "Whoa, just a minute. If you're going to stand there and you're going to talk to me, you talk to me in a positive sense and not in a negative sense. Otherwise, get out of here. I don't have time for negativity. And she became the champion throughout the organization for that sort of positive energy to be able to drive that forward. And, I've had that experience in one other situation. I've had it in a lot, but one that really stands out is I was working with a young person, and when they walked through the door to meet me for the first time, they were all hunched over. They wouldn't do eye contact. They would talk in very quiet terminology and all that sort of stuff. And all I did was I just said a simple sentence. It was, how come you don't believe in you as much as I believe in you and what you're capable of doing? And that was like somebody just put a spotlight on her, and it changed her whole perspective of who she was as a person. That, and of course, a number of packages of Post-it notes on the bathroom window saying, I am a good person and I can do good things.
If you would like to talk to Doug about changing your perspective on life, because it really is about that, about who you believe yourself to be. And, we get a lot of negatives that come at us from all directions. And you really have got to understand that you are in control of what you believe in that or what happens there. At least that's what Doug has told me in the last interview we did. So that's really, really cool. So Nathan, if somebody wants to give us a call it's lunchtime in Seattle, and you're sitting in your car and you're having your lunch and you're contemplating going back to the job you don't like, and you can't seem to find a way out, and Doug may be able to help you. So if you are in that situation and would like to give us a call so that you can be kind of the ringleader to help other people find the same things, Nathan, how do they get a hold of us?
Now is the time to pick up your phone and dial 425-373-5527, or toll-free number if you'd like is 1-888-298-5569.
By the way, before we get too far into this, I want to say, Nathan, that I had the opportunity to talk to your bosses the other day, and I just wanted to let you know that I told them what a fabulous job that you were doing, and that they've done. Doug, I got to tell you, this radio station, that KKNW, they've got what they call board operators, and they've got one that's been there well over 20 years, and the other major one has been there like 18 or 19 years, and Nathan's been with it. How long have you been with them now, Nathan?
I've been here about 6 years.
And I asked him, I said, so what are you doing to prevent turnover? Because in your business, when you have board operators that are competent and they add to the shows, and all, Eric and Nathan and Benny all add to the complex and the variety and what happens with the shows, how do you keep these people? And he told me, but I'll tell you what he said in a few minutes. But I wanted to tell you that I wanted to ask you, isn't eliminating turnover from a business standpoint paramount to being a successful business?
Yes. And the reason a lot of people don't realize it, but it probably costs 1.5 to 2 times the annual salary to actually replace somebody if they were to leave the organization. And on top of that, you need to think of all that corporate knowledge that's going to walk out the door with them that you can't get back.
Yeah, when I was in management, I always told my people that when we don't take care of our good people and we lose one, it can take up to 5 people to replace that one individual at the competence level that they had. Am I close in that?
Yeah, you're definitely close. And I think, the thing that really, for me, what really stood out was, and it's called a knowledge transfer strategy, but most places don't have that. It's just like most places don't have a succession plan in place to replace retired workers and stuff like that, and have people succession planned into management level positions. I forget what the numbers were, but it was 85% of organizations don't have a succession planning process in place.
And when you lose somebody that retires, it's hard to get somebody back who's as good as the person that retired.
That's correct. But there is a saving grace here is that you can take that retired person, offer them to come back as one of your corporate mentors, and they can mentor the transfer of knowledge to the new leaders in the organization.
I really like that you say that, because, when you get a little longer in the tooth and you're interviewing with a guy who may be 30 years younger than you, and you can see it in his eyes that he's saying, oh man, it happened to me when I was 50. This guy wants to be a sales manager. He's over 50. He's 20 years my senior. He's not going to be around long, or he's going to take my job, or there's going to be, so it's really tough. For older Americans who've got this base knowledge all over the place to be able to use it. And a smart company would utilize that, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would. And there has been the stigmatism that 5 of age, that, you've got nothing left, like you're of no value to any organization, which it's all to the contrary, because those are the people with the lived experience. They've been down that path before. They can do the critical thinking a lot better, a lot quicker than what, some young person, and they can pass that knowledge on to help that younger person get up to that same level or up to that speed.
I do have to ask you, because, we are in the middle of a great big change, in that 30 years ago, there was no such thing as cell phones. There was no internet. There was really very little computers. As a matter of fact, in talking with Nathan's people, I was asking them how they log commercials and stuff. And he said, well, in the old days. Well, when was the old days? 20 years ago. It's like, oh, geez. That they would do everything by hand. Now it's all can be automated and stuff. But how do you help and mentor an older person who may not have the computer technical knowledge that a younger person grew up with? How do you get them to pick up that knowledge, or to fight that battle?
You reverse there's a term that's out there that I'm a strong, I'm definitely not an advocate, but they have what they call reverse mentoring. And what that's supposed to be is that a younger person will mentor an older person. And what I've been trying to get people to understand is that if you look at the true definition of mentoring, which is a two-way trusted relationship where both the mentor and the mentee are going to learn and grow together, on a personal and professional basis, there's nothing in there about reverse going backwards. And that's how I always tell people is, when I'm mentoring somebody, I'm not going backwards. So I don't use reverse mentoring, but that's typically what you'll see in a lot of organizations is they will get the younger people who are more tech savvy to work with some of the older people to teach them the different things they need to know about various software applications and some of the different technology like tools that they need to be aware of in order to do their job.
That's outstanding. And that really makes a whole lot of sense. Now, those people, I have got some younger people who work with me, and they are very tech savvy. And I am I'm not bad, but I'm not, I'm not excellent like they are. And so it takes them a while, and they have to be patient with me because I don't understand, or I don't know what each button on a particular program does and how it can affect anything. So it takes me a little bit to get that done. And I'm a one finger typist and stuff. And I spell poorly sometimes and stuff. So it makes it a little bit tougher, but having them help me has made a world of difference, and thank God they're patient. If they were here, they might shoot me, but but they're patient with me and stuff like that. So that's really good. I wanted to double back and talk about the resume, because the resume you said had a lot of negative energy to it. Now, what words did she use that gave you the impression that there was negative energy coming through that?
It was when she brought a copy of the resume with her to this first meeting that we had together, and how I could just feel the negativity from that based on her on her body language and how she responded to stuff. So it wasn't so much that, you would pick up the resume and you go, ooh, it's horrible feeling and all that stuff. It was a combination of the two. It was the resume being written in terminology that was really very, very negative. And then just from the conversation that I had with her, it just sort of solidified or refortified that actual sense or that feeling that I was getting.
So it wasn't so much what she said; it was kind of how she said it and the overall lay of the entire resume.
Well, and there's some trigger words. We get into talking about effective communication and things like that. And one of the things I tell people is that you need to listen and hear when someone is speaking to you or talking with you or however you want to word that. But there will always be trigger words in a conversation that are going to guide you where you need to go next in the conversation. And in her case, it was, me asking her, so how come, why haven't we been successful with this resume in sending it out there? And her response was very simply, well, I'm just not good enough. And nobody wants to hire me. Nobody wants to give me a job. And all we did was then just changed how the resume flowed and all of that stuff. And I planted seeds in her mind that, we need to look at this from something more positive. And once like I said earlier, once we started doing that, she started to get some hits on the resume, and hits turned into interviews, and interviews turned into jobs.
In your experience, Doug, why do we do that to ourselves?
I don't have an answer for that one, to be truthful, because I know that every morning that when I wake up and I look in the mirror, I tell myself, today's another day. Today's is a day that you're going to make a difference. And, you need to put the right foot in front of the left foot in front of, and go forward and be able to do that. Because the big thing that I find is that if I'm positive, those that are around me, that are in that sort of that circle that are around me, they're going to be in a positive sense as well, versus if I'm kind of that, lethargic, I don't really think I'm going to have a good day sort of thing. That rubs off on those that are around you.
Doesn't it, when you start saying that I'm not going to have a good day, I'm just not, I'm not, isn't that a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Well, it could be. It doesn't have to be.
But you got to change your way of thinking.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, there was a guy, and Nathan, you can look this guy up. His name was Frosty Westerling. He was a coach of PLU for, I believe, like 20 or 30 years. And he was a football coach, and he was very, very successful. He won a national championship, and he had a saying, and he translated it to his players with "Make it a great day." That was his kind of slogan. Make it a great day, because you have the opportunity to decide what day you're going to have and if it's going to be a great day. Did you find him, Nathan?
I have found him.
And how many wins did he have?
Okay, let's see. Wins. Still need a moment to search that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so 200 at least. It says list of college football coaches with 200 wins.
And he's on a very exclusive record because of the positivity that he ran his program with. And it wasn't that you can't do this. It was, how can I make you the best that you can be?
All right. His total wins is 305.
Holy mackerel.
And that's over 40 years.
40-year coaching career, 300 wins, a national title, and he always approached it from a positive way. And so he became a mentor through all these players over the course of time, and they kept coming back and talking to him because he was such a great mentor. And that's the kind of role that you fill for people.
Well, and now that we're kind of on the sports topic, it just caused me to reflect back to, I used to supervise hockey referees in another life that I had, and there was two approaches to take. You could, when you went into the referee's dressing room at the end of the game to do your debriefing, you could walk in there all ticked off because they didn't make all the calls that they should have made. You could kick the garbage can and scream and holler at them. And the other approach, and the approach that I always tried to encourage people to use, was to come in and sit down and say, now, what are we going to do differently next time? Without identifying that they had done something incorrect, but just saying, what are we going to do differently next time? And they opened up and they would start to say, I had one individual that was a police officer, and he was refereeing a game, and he was always very closed off. I could never crack him enough. I couldn't get him to open up enough to talk about his on ice performance. And I found a common theme. It was, we're both police officers. And so I started to ask him a bit about that, and it helped break his wall down, take his wall down. And he started to volunteer, well, I could have done this differently, and I should have done that and this. And it was all we needed to just make the right steps in the right direction to sort of change his performance from where it was to where it could be, which was, for him, it could mean the difference between being selected for playoffs and not being selected.
And it became a really big challenge for him to dig deep. But doesn't it take someone like yourself to help somebody and to ask the questions that they may not even be asking themselves, because they think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that I'm not good enough and whatever it is. And then you have to get in deep, because there's some things that are underneath the surface that you need to work with. And you do that really well.
Well, and the other aspect I was just thinking too as well was the aspect that I used to sometimes go in and sit down and they turn and they look at me, and I'd say very, very quietly, all I said was, you disappointed me.
Oh. And
I was just like shoving a knife in the heart.
Yeah. Well, when you're the mentor of somebody, you want them to be, when you're being mentored by somebody that you look up to, you want to make sure that you're doing everything that you can. And when you're disappointing them, that's kind of as close to home. That kind of hurts.
Yeah. And I didn't have to say anything else. And it was, right from that point on, the conversation switched to where they said, well, I'm sorry that I'm sorry I disappointed you, and here's what I'm going to do better next time. I said, good, I'm done. My work's done. I can go home now.
You can get on your cape and go fly down and fly on. Yeah. It's really important that we all have somebody that we can talk to, that can understand what we've gone through, because we've all gone through stuff in life. And if you can have somebody, as an example, I know you talk a great deal about grief and PTSD and some of the negative side of what happens in this lifetime. When we come back from this break, which we need to take real quick, we're going to talk about that, talking about grief and the dark side, and how you can help somebody switch the light bulb. Because this is Positive Talk Radio, by the way. And so we want to do something real positive for folks to help them understand that it's just a much better way to be positive and happy and living your life in a way that satisfies you and satisfies the people that are around you. Do you agree with that, sir?
I would.
Very good. So, Nathan, why don't we put out the phone numbers one more time? If you would like to find out, let's see, I'll talk about a resume, talk about grief, talk about PTSD, talk about any of the issues that can affect your performance at work and your life at home, that we can kind of walk you through, and Doug he does a great job of walking you through how to get to maybe the other side of that. Because once you're in it, it's hard to see through the trees to see the other side. And so if you want to give us a call, Nathan, how do they do it?
Some mentoring is available here at 425-373-5527 or toll free at 1-888-298-5569. And we can take your call after the break.
And we're talking with Doug Lawrence, and go to his website, which is talentc.ca, and you can find out all about him. And we're also going to, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the book that you've got coming up, and we want to talk about that as well. But you're listening to Positive Talk Radio, and we will be right back after these quick commercial messages.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. Now through New Year's Eve, here's your exclusive bonus for being our appreciated listener. Type in promo code Positive Talk Radio at checkout to receive $20 off your order. Our gift to you for being here with us today. anaturaldesign.com.
Hey there. I'm excited that you're listening right now, and if you like what we're doing here, you're going to love positivetalkradio.net. On positivetalkradio.net, each show, which is recorded live, is packed with positive information, with real people discussing real issues and positive solutions that can work for everyone. I hope that you'll join us on positivetalkradio.net and listen to all 340 plus shows. I think it's worth your time. But then, that's just me. That's positivetalkradio.net, your home for great progressive, positive podcasts. And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. See, that wasn't too bad. Just a couple of commercials, and one is for A Natural Design. And if you want to do flowers this holiday season, if you go to anaturaldesign.com, you're going to get $20 off by just putting in the promo code that you should have been listening to, then I can't remember what it was. But in any event, just you can go do that, and they would have great fun. By the way, Nathan, do you know what?
I do know what. What is it?
You know what January is?
First month of the year.
Very good. You know what January it is for Positive Talk Radio?
Let's see. Fire it away.
It is our 20th anniversary of starting Positive Talk Radio back in 2003, in January 2003. So we got some big changes coming up that we're going to institute.
Tell us more.
No, because I'll be telling you as we go along. But in January, we're going to start doing more of these on the net and with KKNW. So we're looking forward to some real positive things coming forward with us, because I just love doing this, and I love talking to people like Doug Lawrence, who is a magical mentor. Hey, that's a great name. I should, can I copyright that? He's a certified competent journey mentor, and is a mentor of mentors, as they say. And it's great to have you here, and I really appreciate it. You talk to people not just about coaching and making a list and checking it twice and doing a vision board and all of that, which the typical coach is what they do. But you also talk to them in depth about what may be driving their behavior that is causing them to be less than successful, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I've started it more and more often now, is to be aware of a person's sort of state, whereabouts they are from a mental health perspective, and getting them to volunteer that sort of information through creating a safe environment for them to have that conversation. I'm doing more and more of that. And it's, I wish I could say it's rewarding. I guess it is to some extent, but it's also sad in that there's so many people out there that are having to deal with that sometimes on their own with no support structure, that they're struggling. There's such a big gap between when they first get professional help to when they can get back to see that same person, whether it's a social worker, counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist, why it's any one of those, it takes a while because they're overwhelmed. They've got so much work to do, and you just you can't help but feel sad for people that are really fighting, going through, trying to heal when they've got no one to really turn to for any help or guidance.
One of the things that we've talked a great deal about here is the hidden trauma that people go through because of what happened in their youth, and maybe they were sexually abused or sexually assaulted, but they didn't tell anybody. Yeah. Because they were scared or for whatever reason. And there are lots of reasons why you would not divulge that information to people, but it festers in their life and it continues in their life. How do you build a safe place for somebody to be able to open up to that extent and maybe tell you something that they haven't told anybody in the whole wide world?
Well, and I have that happen with me quite a bit, where people will they'll tell me their story, so to speak, and then at the end of it they'll say, "Oh my goodness, I've never told anyone else about this before," and I'm going, "That's okay. That's okay. There'll be more of those stories." And how I create that safe place for them to actually open up and share is I share my own story first. And I demonstrate the vulnerability, being humble, the humility, all those behaviors, all those feelings, and that I demonstrate to them that I too, have gone down that path, and I'm still here. And so let's have a conversation, and let's move forward and see where we can go with this.
Why do you think it is that people look at other people in a different way than they look at themselves?
I think a large part of it is it's easy to deflect. If I can deflect the attention away from me to somebody else, then I don't have to worry about it. But that's not the case. What I'm finding is that I know for me, and it happened here just recently, I went to one of the big box grocery stores because they always have a better selection of greeting cards. And so I go there and I'm standing there and I'm looking for cards, and all of a sudden I get triggered because that's something that my wife and I used to do together. And all of a sudden I'm triggered and I'm starting to become extremely emotional. And I'm thinking, just a minute, I can't do this in front of all these people in the grocery store. I can't become emotional. I can't cry. I'm not supposed to do all that sort of stuff. And then part of me says, and why can't you? Right? Why can't you? And it was just even being able to share that story with, even with, the three of us today, is that's a huge step in a positive direction. Is that if we, especially we as males, if we can be humble enough to be able to share those experiences, to say this happened to me, and I wish they hadn't. And my response to you is, I'm glad they did. I'm glad that you had those experiences. I'm glad that that those emotions came pouring out of you. And you know what? It doesn't really matter what the rest of the 50 odd people that were right around the greeting card area, what they think. It's what you think that counts the most.
Indeed. And I'm willing to bet that if you get emotional like you did in the credit or in the greeting card aisle, that there were people that were genuinely sympathetic to your pain and were interested. They may not have come up and said anything, but they were aware of it and they were interested in it and felt compassion for you.
Well, a large part of the reason that they wouldn't come up and say anything is they don't know what to say.
Yeah. That is so true. That is so true. It's an important topic that because we, as human beings, we are in and amongst ourselves, and we don't necessarily know how to behave with other people, or what other people are thinking, or how we view other people, especially how we view people that are famous and in the limelight, and we tend to think that their lives are so much better than ours. I mean, look at Nathan. I mean, his life is so much better than ours because he's on the radio every day and stuff like that. But I bet you if you were to talk to him, he would have some things that he would tell you make him a human being, that not everything is rosy and puppy dog tails. Wouldn't you, Nathan?
Every industry has that.
Yes, and every person has that. But so it's up to us to get past it, to really work at it, and to pick up a mentor or somebody that is close to you. That I've had several. They've all been coaches. They happen to have been in my life, but they have said some things to me that I've carried for 40 years or 50 years. It is and they're all, most of them are gone now. And, but they still, their words resonated with me. And just like your words resonate with people that you work with, and though the things that you say will come up again and again when they're in different situations. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, I definitely do. And, you know, I think that what happens for me in a lot of cases is I have people that come up to me and say, you know, all those things that you just said, that was me.
Oh.
And you kind of go, okay. And what do we need to do to move you past that point? Well, I need somebody who will listen and hear, because I keep it all inside. And, you know, so, but the big thing is, and I don't know if I should take it as a compliment or how I should take it, but when somebody comes up to me and says, you know, that was me. When I heard you talk, I went, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm same sort of feelings, same sort of everything. That was me. And so then there's a good time, you know, from wanting something positive to be able to say that, you know, thank you for sharing that. And now what are we going to do to move past that? And what are some of the things we can do to strengthen your support structure so that your coping mechanisms, so that you're able to get beyond even where we are today?
You know, I like you didn't say, how are you going to get past it? You didn't say, what are you going to do? You said, what are we going to do? So now you're invested in them as a human being, and no longer are they alone. That, I think, is the biggest thing, is when you are feeling bad, you're feeling depressed, and you're having griefs. Maybe you've lost somebody that you love, even if it's a pet, and you've lost somebody that you really care about, and you're suffering grief, and there's nobody to tell. There's nobody to commiserate with. It's just important to be able to have that person that you can work with that really gets you. And I know that you're working with people and you get people.
It's interesting, because I was just, you know, one of the things that I had some individuals, I think 4 or 5 of them, write various sections in the one book I did. And the one person wrote about losing themselves. And how that was a very traumatic experience for them. Was they lost perspective on who they were as a person, and it was obviously due to a relationship breakup and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, their sense of purpose had been damaged, and they needed to sort of regroup and start to understand better who they were as a person, and kind of collect all those thoughts together so that they could start to heal from that experience.
Why is it that we have a tendency to look at how other people view us as the gospel that teaches us to go down a bad place sometimes, rather than understanding who we are, and to take and to not take everybody else's opinions as gospel?
is it not the road of least resistance?
Oh, sure it is.
In some cases, it's easier. I'm going through an exercise right now, and part of the exercise, there's a case study and stuff that I'm doing, and there's all kinds, when you go through and you read this case study, there's all kinds of deflections. Every time you turn around, the person that's the subject of this case study, there's more and more deflections being thrown up as to why he shouldn't or why she shouldn't, instead of saying, okay, what do we have to do to move forward? What are the things that I need to put into place, to be able to move forward? And, you think to most of your experience in life that you have, most of it is, I need to communicate a lot better than what I am today. I need to be able to feel comfortable sharing how I'm feeling and where I want to go with whoever is in that, in my inner circle or whichever. But I need to be able to do that in order to be able to move forward. Because if I can't, I'm kind of like that analogy of the person in the closet who can't seem to go anywhere because they're trapped in the closet. They're afraid to open the door because they don't know what's on the other side. And they know they need to, or they think they need to, but all they want is somebody on the other side to take their hand and say, it's okay to come out now. And let's have a conversation about where we're going to go and how we're going to get there.
That's wonderful advice. Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
When I was in the restaurant business, I was in management with several companies, one of which was Garcia's at Scottsdale. They had 6 restaurants in the Seattle area. And I took that job as an assistant manager. And the first day that I was there, I was standing there talking to the other assistant manager. And he said, well, it's a great place to work as long as you don't mind just being an assistant manager as long as you're here. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, there are only 6 general manager spots, and those guys are committed and they're all good. And then there are 12 guys ahead of you. So that means that you're 13th in the pecking order to get your own store. And so I said, well, that's fine, I guess. And but I didn't buy into the drama of what he was trying to tell me, because I knew in my heart who I was and what I could do. And so I just went to work and did what I do. And because I know that I knew at that time that it was quality. Well, one of the guys, I was in Federal Way. One of the general managers left, who was in Redmond. And I got the first general manager job of all and as a matter of fact, this assistant manager ended up working for me. How tough would that have been for him? But we all have that ability. And I'm convinced that if you believe that you can do it, and then you work diligently to get it done, and you help people and other people, and you let other people in to help you see your blind spots, that you can do virtually anything that you want to do. I'm a firm believer in that, as I know you are as well.
Yeah, because I do lots of work with new managers and new supervisors and team leads. And if you just give them the tools they need to be successful, and then kind of get out of their way and let them do what they do best, you'd be surprised at what takes place.
Indeed. And that's why a new manager needs a mentor who I take that back. You can, but you're going to spend a whole lot of time wandering around, not doing the right thing, and not having a clear plan of what you're going to execute to be the best that you can be, and to get the most out of your people. Especially if you came from that group of people that were in that work environment and they promoted you, and now you're the boss of the same guys that you were going to have a beer with on Friday night, and saw you do some rather, maybe it's not the best things you could have done, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And that just made me think right away. I went to one of the things that a lot of people that used to, when I was managing large groups of people, and we'd have a social function, and I would exit the social function before things got a little carried away. And people always would say, well, why do you do that? And I said, because if something goes down tonight, I need to be clear-headed, and I need to also be unbiased as to what took place, because I'm the one that's going to have to do the discipline tomorrow.
Exactly. Don't ever go to a Christmas party and make an ass out of yourself, because it's going to come back to haunt you. If so it's I treat it like it's still a workplace.
Yeah, I agree.
So, by the way, we're talking with Doug Lawrence. Go to his website, which is talentc.ca. He is a mentor. He's an author and a speaker. You're just finishing up a new book. Tell us about it.
So I've got 3 books, or I will have 3 books. The Gift of Mentoring was my first. You Are Not Alone is my second book, and my third one that is very, very close to being finished is The Silent Pandemic. And the Silent Pandemic is an extension of You Are Not Alone, in that it touches a bit on mental health and post-traumatic stress, but it has a large part of the book is written with the idea in mind of talking about cancer, and cancer actually being a pandemic, because where the idea for the book came from was my wife passed away in 2021 from cancer. And as a result of that, as I was writing this other one, You Are Not Alone, I started to formulate some thoughts and ideas. And I thought, with the cancer being what the leading cause of death in the world today, it's a pandemic, however you want to define it. So let's write about it as a pandemic, and we'll see if we can orchestrate a change and get it looked at differently than what it is today. And so that should be, keep your fingers crossed and everything works well. I hope to, about March-ish of next year, I hope to be publishing The Silent Pandemic.
Well, you're going to have to come back and when we get there, and so that we can talk about that book, because it strikes me the book title You Are Not Alone. I picture that ending up in the sci-fi section, talking about UFOs and stuff like that. But that's just me. That's where my mind went. So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But so being an author and doing what you're doing is very fulfilling work for you, isn't it?
It is, and the odd times that you get recognition, like with the You Are Not Alone, Amazon #1 bestseller, bronze medal recipient for the Global Book Awards. That was just something that just recently happened. So every time something like that turns around and gets brought forward, I'm going, okay, it's worth the journey.
So if somebody wants to pick up any one of the two books that are out now and the third one, which is coming, they can go to Amazon, right?
Yep, that's correct. Amazon.ca or .com, whichever you'd prefer.
And you can pick up those books. And one of these days, I do voiceovers. If you ever thought about doing an audiobook.
Well, I also do book trailers. I get those as well. So definitely.
Yeah, we at kmmedia.pro do all those kinds of things because we're just that talented. And not me, by the way. I have people and that are really cool and really talented folks. So if anybody's looking for that, we can provide that, and you can go to positivetalkradio.net and contact us, and we'll do some work for you. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that commercial in there, Doug. I apologize.
Not a problem.
So, what do you see for yourself next, sir? You've been doing this for 40 years. And by the way, you have, I'm sorry that you lost your wife.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Even if I say to myself, where do I see myself in the next 5 to 7 years? Other than I may take a short break writing, but aside from that, I love what I do, and I love making a difference in people's lives. So I'll probably do this for as long as I can. And if I can find somebody who can run a wheelchair for me, I'll probably keep on doing it.
Well, there is this getting old part sucks. I just have to tell you.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. When it's 50, what was it here earlier this week? Minus 50 Celsius with the wind chill. Having the no hair just didn't really work well for me.
Minus 50 is, see, we use Fahrenheit here because we're still backwards. What Fahrenheit temperature would that be? 50 below?
I'm not even sure, because isn't it the same at, the same at 32?
Well, 32 is, for you, is 0, I think, and it's 32 degrees for us because that's freezing. I know Nathan, because he's smarter than most of us, would be able to come up with that.
So minus 50 into Fahrenheit?
Yeah, from Celsius into Fahrenheit.
Sounds like it would be so cold.
That's it. I was going to say.
All right, let's see what we got here. It is negative 58 Fahrenheit. Ooh.
Oh Lord! Not only was your head, did the few hairs you got left freeze, everything else would be freezing too. So it's we all live in different places and we all love where we live. I would hope, but it makes it tough.
I have to rub my hands together, thinking how cold that is.
Boy, no kidding. No kidding. I can't imagine. What are the virtues of living there? Why do you like living there?
I was born and raised in the province. I'm a Saskatchewan farm boy who joined the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and ended up finally getting back here after 20 some odd years. So it's you can get pretty much anywhere in 20 minutes or less.
Oh, which is good because everything's frozen.
Yeah.
So do you follow Canadian football at all?
Yes, I do.
Isn't the Saskatchewan Roughriders, isn't that one of the teams?
Yes.
And you had in this neck of the woods, one of our favorite players of all time was there. He was at the University of Washington. His name was Warren Moon.
Okay. Yeah.
He played a number of years for them before he went to the NFL. I don't know why I thought of that. I just thought that I just thought of that. So,
well, we were trying to be positive, and then you had to bring that up because they, fan support was not great because they started the season really well with, I forget, 4 or 5 wins in a row. And then somebody took all the equipment and hid it someplace because nobody showed up after that. We didn't do very well. We didn't even make the playoffs, and we were the host city for the Grey Cup Championship, which is kind of like your Super Bowl, right? So we were the host, but we weren't playing in the game, so not the greatest.
Well, I just want to bring up the Seattle Seahawks just real quick, just because they have a coach. His name is Pete Carroll, and he has got a magical, unique coaching style that's very much in a mentoring style of what you would do, which is to help each individual be the best individual that they can be.
Yeah.
At whatever it is that they're doing. And his job, as he sees it, is to make that happen. And so, there are good people like that are coming along. Things are changing. I'm excited about that. And by the way, we're going to run out of time here in 2 minutes or so. So I want to give you an opportunity, Doug. By the way, we're talking with Doug Lawrence. Go to his website, which is talentc.ca, and find out all about him, buy his books, and do all that. I want to give you about a minute to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know, the ones that are listening now and the ones that will be listening in the future.
Well, the big thing is that, it's okay to reach out and ask for help. That's always been the position that I've tried to take is, don't stay in the closet. You need to come out of the closet, extend the hand, and ask for help, because that's how we can turn what you're dealing with today from a negative into a positive, and how we can help you move forward.
And again, we've been talking with Doug Lawrence, and thank you for being here. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity. This was really good.
Yes, and Nathan, how come? Well, next time we're going to get some callers that want to talk to somebody that can help them. So, yeah, I'm just sitting here minding my own business. I don't know what I'm doing. So Doug Lawrence, again, thank you so much for being here, and it's great fun. Go to his website, which is talentseed.ca. Correct?
Correct.
Very good. And it's awfully nice to have you here. I want to thank everybody for being here. On Monday, we're going to be doing a rerun of a previous show, an encore presentation of a previous show, because I have to get on an airplane and fly over to Spokane, Washington, which I love Spokane. It's a beautiful town, and testify in court on Tuesday. So I know it's not about me. It's something else. So, but I will be doing that. So we'll be running an encore presentation on Monday. But thank you so much for being here, everybody. And again, Doug Lawrence, thank you so much for being our guest today. And be kind to one another, because, each other's all we've got. We'll see you Monday on Positive Talk Radio.